Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. The other day I saw this video by Prager University and it was titled What is the Enlightenment, or what was the Enlightenment? And just the direct attack on human reason in favor of religion is so blatant, so obvious in this video. I mean, it needs a response to it. This video is absolutely terrible for anyone who actually believes in individual rights and actually wants to promote freedom, because what it does is it undercuts human reason. And well, let's just get into it first, because I mean, this video surprised me, but it's honestly not that surprising coming from PragerU, which is, as we all probably know, a very right-wing, very religious institution. So yeah, let's get it started.
Modern science, medicine, political freedom, the market economy, all of them, we're told, are the result of a sort of miracle that took place 250 years ago. That miracle is called the Enlightenment.
See, at this point in the video, I'm like, oh wow, this is going to be a good video. I'm excited to watch this. I mean, they're talking about the beauty of the Enlightenment, how great the Enlightenment was, but just wait.
Moment in history when philosophers suddenly overthrew religious dogma and tradition and replaced it with human reason. Harvard professor Steven Pinker puts it this way: progress is a gift of the ideals of the Enlightenment.
Absolutely.
There's just one problem with this claim. It isn't really true. Consider the U.S. Constitution, which is frequently said to be
Oof. Yeah, see, this is in the video when I realized that this video needs a response to it, because this dude does not know what he's talking about. This is one of those like apologetics for the Dark Age type videos, and why, the Enlightenment wasn't that great. But as you know, they're not going to come up with a real argument against reason. They're going to probably, I'm not going to spoil the video. We'll wait and see.
Product of Enlightenment thought. But you only need to read about English common law, which Alexander Hamilton and James Madison certainly did, to see that this isn't so. Already in the 15th century, the English jurist John Fortescue elaborated the theory of checks and balances, due process, and the...
Now notice the date on this. If you look at the time period, 1394 to 1479, this is like right when the Renaissance is coming. This is like right when the Renaissance is starting to come. This is not like the midst of the Dark Ages, them elaborating all these individualistic rights. This is like the beginning of the Renaissance, sort of. This is that time period, because I mean, it's not exactly in the Renaissance, because the Renaissance more or less started in 1492, from my understanding. But this is like right on the cusp. This is as you're transitioning from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance. So to say that this is the Dark Ages, this is the Middle Ages, this is the religious, this is the religiosity of Europe, is absolutely absurd. But let's keep going.
Role of private property in securing individual freedom and economic prosperity. Similarly, the U.S. Bill of Rights...
Also, notice, this is just one guy. This is one dude who elaborated this stuff. Thomas Aquinas was a philosopher during the Middle Ages, and he was pretty decent as well. So it's not as if the Dark Ages was only bad philosophy, only bad stuff. There's good aspects to it as well. And I mean, this dude, if I take what this dude is saying at face value, seemed like a pretty good guy. Seemed like one of the good parts of the Dark Ages. One of the good philosophers, I guess. But those were few and far between. It was largely dominated by religious thought. And until Aquinas came, which this dude came after Aquinas, from my understanding. I think that's right. For this dude fact check me on that. This dude came after Aquinas. So, I mean, this is already in the transition away from the Dark Ages. This is part of the transition away from the Dark Ages. So to say that, this is Christianity, it's absolutely absurd.
Rights has its sources in English common law of the 1600s.
Absolutely. English common law, 1600s. nobody is opposed to the 1600s. This is not like the Middle Ages. This is like the Renaissance, the beginning of the Enlightenment, all this sort of stuff. And the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, which is truly what the spirit of America is, was directly based on Locke's writings, and Locke was an Enlightenment thinker. I mean, to deny that fact that the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence was based on John Locke and individual rights that John Locke created is absolutely absurd. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm sure common law had an effect on it because we came from England, but I mean, yeah, common law does have a good effect, but I mean, also common law was a fairly rational thing from my understanding. I don't know. I don't know the most about common law, but I know that America was more based on John Locke. And obviously we take stuff from the English system, but we were based on John Locke. We were based on Enlightenment thought of individual rights. But let's keep going.
Or consider modern science and medicine. Long before the Enlightenment, tradition-bound English kings sponsored path-breaking scientific institutions, such as the Royal College of Physicians, founded in 1518, and the Royal Society of London, founded in 1660.
Holy shit, this is all time periods in the Renaissance. This is not like a religious time period. This is the time when religion was becoming secularized. This is when reason was being applied to religion. And these dates are starting to get in close to the time of the Enlightenment. Like, all you have to do is look at these dates to just understand that this is not Middle Ages time, because what they're doing in this video is trying to defend religion, the time that religion was in power, which was the Middle Ages. I didn't even notice these dates when I was watching the video the first time. Like, this is blatantly a part of the Renaissance, when a time when religion was being secularized, when reason was being applied for the first time, the rebirth of Greek philosophy. This is not from religious institutions. Plus, England has never been really that religious, from my understanding. I mean, there's whatever. I'm not going to get into that because that's not something that I know a lot about. But I don't really think of England as like this place where the church dominated or stuff, like, because that was more like Italy and like the mainland Europe. But well, I'll keep going. Yeah.
The truth is that statesmen and philosophers, especially in England and the Netherlands, articulated the principles of free government centuries before America was founded. So why give...
Yes, of course. I mean, how is America going to be founded on these ideas if they weren't articulated before America was founded? John Locke was before America was founded. This line of reasoning is so absurd. Nobody's claiming that the Enlightenment happened after America started. The Enlightenment occurred before America started. That's when these ideas of reason were espoused. And then after, like, America is the culmination of Enlightenment ideas. It's not like America started and then the Enlightenment happened, which developed America. That's absurd. Like, all these ideas culminated and reason was being developed more and more. And this culminated in America being formed. Holy shit, this video is, oh my God.
Give the Enlightenment all the credit.
Because it deserves all the credit. The Enlightenment was just applying reason to science to create. It did create science. You're not even denying that. I mean, sure, it started in the Renaissance, but the Enlightenment laid out the Renaissance, since you brought back Greek philosophy, but the Enlightenment really expanded upon this and like solidified human reason as the standard of epistemology. Now, of course, we couldn't do it perfectly because of a lack of an egoistic morality, but we got a strong, like, Enlightenment was the age of reason. It was a great time of expanding science, like, and you're not denying that. You're going back to the Renaissance and pointing to the good developments that happened in the Renaissance, but all of these culminated in the Enlightenment eventually, which culminated in America's founding.
Apparently, because it doesn't look good to admit that the best and most important parts of modernity were given to us by individuals who nearly all held conservative religious and political beliefs.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know about that. It seems as if the Renaissance was a time of secularizing Christianity and moving more away from strong political rule. And John Locke was the person. He was an Enlightenment figure. He was the one who articulated individual rights. It wasn't any like religious thinkers of the time. That's absurd. I mean, John Locke was religious, but he was more devoted to reason than faith. Like, all this is a time of returning toward, of becoming more and more secular. That's what the Renaissance was. It's not a time of becoming more religious. It's moving away from religion. Look at the trends of the time. Don't just look at the beliefs that these people held. And plus, all the founders of America were deists. There were some that were probably somewhat religious, but most of them, like Thomas Jefferson, was a deist. I know Ben Franklin had views about religion that were not mainstream at the time. I don't know exactly what he identified as, because I haven't looked into that as much, but these people were not religious people.
The claim that all good things come from the Enlightenment is most closely associated with the late 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant.
Yeah, Kant, oh my God. Kant was just such a great advocate of reason with his book titled The Critique of Pure Reason. Oh my fucking God. Kant was not a pro-reason guy. He said that our reasoning was flawed because we look at a phenomenal realm which doesn't actually reflect real reality. Since our reason is based on reality, if reality is flawed, if our perception's flawed, our reasoning's flawed. I mean, that he literally argued against reason. So to say that he was like this person who espoused rationality is absolutely absurd. To claim Kant was an Enlightenment figure, since the Enlightenment is the age of reason, the age of reason being the epistemological standard, Kant was the person who ended the Enlightenment, who transitioned away from the Enlightenment.
For Kant, reason is universal, infallible, and independent of experience.
That's simply not true. That's not what Kant argued at all. We have completely different understandings of Kant now. Like, now I feel like I need to do more research on Kant, because you're simply like not telling the truth about one of us has incorrect information about Kant, and I do not think it's me. Kant's book was titled The Critique of Pure Reason. That's to say that he believed reason was infallible and all this shit about that just seems absurd.
His extraordinarily dogmatic philosophy insisted that there can be only one correct answer to...
Wait, dogmatic? Dogmatic and reason are separate things. To say that you're just espousing these a priori sort of truths, or things like that, is different from saying that reason is the way of achieving knowledge. That's completely different. Reason is not dogmatic. It's you look at the world and come to your own conclusions. Dogmatic is like you're just given these conclusions from an authority. That's the opposite of reason.
To every question in science, morality, and politics, and that to reach the one correct answer, mankind had to free itself from the chains of the past. That is...
What is he talking? Wait, hold up. Let me reread that quote.
Answer, mankind...
First, I don't think that's probably not a Kant quote, because Kant was incoherent, but whatever.
Science, morality...
Is there not only one correct answer? I mean, reality is real. I mean, what? Reality is real and it is what it is, so there is one correct answer. I don't think Kant espoused that.
In politics, and that to reach the one correct answer, mankind had to free itself from the chains of the past. That is, from history, tradition, and experience. But this Enlightenment view is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Human reason, when cut loose from the constraints imposed by history, tradition, and experience.
So what is history, tradition, and experience? These are a priori truths that are given to you through Jordan Peterson's means evolution or from intuition. Like, this is all undercutting reason. This is not, all these things, they're not based on anything. It doesn't allow for the individual mind to think for itself and to come to its own conclusion. It's saying that you must follow the past, follow what people said was true in the past, which is absurd. We've developed so much since the past. I don't want to return to the Dark Ages. I want to continue progressing forward and getting all these amazing, cool new things. Look at the internet. Look at all this new stuff that we've created. Look at all the stuff that the human mind has created when reason was unshackled. It's absolutely beautiful with the world we live in today because of reason. because, I mean, the Industrial Revolution was simply saying, no, the human mind is free to choose what they want to create and what they want to build. And that led to so much progress, so much prosperity. It's absolutely beautiful.
Produces a lot of crazy notions. The abstract Enlightenment philosophy of Jean-Jacques Rousseau is a good example. It quickly pulled down the French state, leading to the French Revolution.
Rousseau was, from my understanding, Rousseau was not this like advocate of reason as well. He was similar to Kant in most respects, and from my understanding, he was more someone who advocated whim and emotion rather than reason, rather than strict adherence to reality and like reason and shit like that. Like I don't think of Rousseau as like this advocate of reason. I mean, wasn't he the one who advocated for the noble was that him or Voltaire? I think he was the one who advocated for the like noble savage, of returning, going backwards in time and like becoming like a caveman again, and yeah, he was not an advocate of human reason.
The Reign of Terror and the Napoleonic Wars. Millions died as Napoleon's armies sought to rebuild every government in Europe in light of the one correct political theory he believed was permitted by Enlightenment philosophy. Today's cheerleaders for the Enlightenment tend to skip this part of the story. They also...
Just the other day, PragerU made a video defending Napoleon. That's strange, but whatever. I don't know enough about Napoleon to comment on this sort of stuff. But dictatorship is not the logical consequence of Enlightenment philosophy. Reason is an individual faculty, and if you accept that fact, if you accept reason as the standard for finding truth, you have to let individuals free. You have to say the individual mind is free. But let's keep going.
Also pass over the fact that the father of communism, Karl Marx, saw...
This isn't even Enlightenment time, dog. What the fuck? This is like after the Enlightenment. This is after America was already born. And Marx was very much based on Hegelian philosophy, which was very, very mystical. And Marx's epistemology isn't based on reason, from my understanding. Marx had more of this idea that like knowledge simply comes to you from looking at reality. So if you're using a certain tool, then looking at that tool is going to give you a certain knowledge. That's a really simplified version, but his epistemology was not very complicated. It was not very much based on reason. It simply was like you look at reality, and reality gives you knowledge, basically.
Himself is promoting universal reason as well. His new science of economics ended up killing tens of millions of people. And
his science was extremely mystical and based on absolutely nothing. Like his science of history, basically. He had this theory of history of like class struggle and stuff like that, and it was very, very like a priori sort of. It wasn't based on anything really.
In the 20th century. So did the supposedly scientific race theories of the Nazis. The greatest catastrophe...
Hitler was pretty conservative, I'd say. Hitler was very much a conservative Christian type person. Like, he is the logical consequence of these nationalists that the right is becoming right now. Like, we're becoming more and more nationalistic, more and more afraid of immigrants, afraid of people of different colors. Hitler's the logical consequence of that. And these people use religion usually as their justification for said acts. And Hitler was an avowed Catholic. You can see quotes of him talking about how this is God's will and stuff like that. And I still need to read The Ominous Parallels for more of an understanding about Hitler and the rise of Hitler and the rise of fascist Germany and that sort of stuff. But like, Hitler was not someone who is based on rational philosophies. Simply read The Ominous Parallels if you want to know more about that.
Catastrophes of modernity were engineered by individuals who claimed to be exercising reason. In contrast, most of the progress we've made comes from conservative traditions, openly skeptical of human reason.
No, what the fuck? The human mind and human reason, individual reason, is what caused all this great science, all this great production that we've had over these past couple centuries. Aristotle was the one who developed the scientific method, and his scientific method is still what we use today to discover more scientific knowledge, and it's entirely based on human reason. That's absurd to say that Christianity is the true champion of science. Just look at Galileo.
The Enlightenment's critics, including John Selden, David Hume, Adam Smith, and Edmund Burke.
I don't think Adam Smith was an Enlightenment critic. What? I don't know who these guys are. And David Hume. Don't get me started on Hume. Hume was terrible. Hume just promoted absolute skepticism about everything. He didn't believe that reason could obtain any knowledge, which is absolutely absurd. He is one of the causes of us moving away from the Enlightenment, moving away from reason, moving away from the human mind, the idea that the human mind can discover knowledge for itself and can achieve happiness based on that. And Adam Smith, I consider him an Enlightenment philosopher. I don't know why he's included in an Enlightenment critic.
Emphasized the unreliability of abstract reasoning and urged us to stick close to custom, history, and experience in all things. Which brings...
we do have to stick close to, like, experience and like reality. This is more of a criticism of rationalism at that point. Like, rationalism is the idea that you can just use reason divorced from reality to come to truths, which is not true. You can't do that. But it has to be grounded in reality. But you can't, just because there's people in the past who have not grounded their reasoning in reality, doesn't mean that you can abandon reason altogether. Like, your reasoning needs to be based on reality, but you can obtain real knowledge from reason. Read anything that Ayn Rand ever wrote.
Brings us to the heart of what's wrong with today's idolization of the Enlightenment. Its leading figures were not skeptics, open to what history and experience might teach.
Skeptics are not very good either. Skeptics are people who reject reason altogether, say that we can't gain knowledge. Those are the people that make science impotent. Those are the people who make science, who make us, like, abandon science, abandon trying to attain knowledge. Like, the most consistent skeptics just stay at home all day and just slowly die because they can't know anything. They can't know anything's real, so...
Teach us. Their aim was to create their own system of supposedly infallible truths independent of experience. And in that pursuit...
that is a criticism of rationalism, but I've gone into that a little bit.
They were as rigid as the most dogmatic medievals.
Yeah, and that's bad. It's bad to be rigid as the most dogmatic medievals. That's not a good thing, to hold these truths, these a priori dogmatic truths that were given to you by some authority as true. And do you know how you overcome that? Reason, thinking for yourself, allowing your individual mind to come to its own conclusions by looking at reality and conceptualizing and abstracting and coming up with truth.
Anglo-Scottish conservatives had a very different goal. They defended national and religious tradition, even as they cultivated what they called a moderate skepticism, a combination that became known as common sense.
Oof, you're citing common sense as the, ideal. That's absurd. Common sense is not how you gain any knowledge. You have to look at reality and think about things. You can't just say, common sense is a very, very a priori sort of way of thinking. It's basically intuition. It's saying that whatever I feel is true is true. That's ultimately what common sense redounds to. You have to be able to provide arguments based on reason for this. You can't rely on skepticism plus religion. And ultimately, this is one example of where skepticism and religion, although they might seem like they're separate, are one and the same. They use the same sort of arguments. They both try to undercut human reason, saying that we can't know reality, so we need God to show us reality. So this just shows the alliance between religion and skepticism. These people make the same arguments. When you argue with a skeptic and when you argue with a religious person, they will both tell you that your reasoning is fallible and you can't know reality. The religious people just take it one step further and say, so we need a God. So God is possible. So you need faith. Those sort of things. And common sense is not a good epistemological standard. It's simply intuition. It's simply saying that whatever I feel is right is right. But what you feel is based on your subconscious, which is formed by whatever arbitrary premises came into your head during childhood. you could have the most fucked up common sense in the world because of your choices, or because of what premises you accepted during your childhood. Common sense is not a good epistemological standard. It relies on rationality. It relies on rationality from other people to give you good premises. It's parasitism, pretty much. It's epistemological parasitism. Common sense is. It's basically saying other people reason for me and give me those premises into my subconscious, and then I will have the right answers because of the premises you gave me. Common sense is intellectual parasitism.
I think a lot about common sense these days, as I see American and European elites clamoring for enlightenment now. They rush to embrace every fashionable new ism, socialism, feminism, environmentalism, and so on.
These are not Enlightenment ideals. These are post-Enlightenment things. These are like postmodernism, like those sort of ideals. These are not Enlightenment ideals. These are not based on a reason. It's absurd. And environmentalism is the worst one of the bunch. Like, that's saying that the individual human must sacrifice for the environment. It's very nihilistic and very, very religious in its thinking. It's very much like, no, the environment comes first, without any focus on humanity, without any focus on a human individual's requirements for life, and saying that, no, you need to sacrifice yourself, your mind, your life for the environment. I mean, that's just replace the word environment with God and you have religion. None of this is Enlightenment stuff. None of this is reason.
Declaring them to be universal certainties and the only politically correct way of thinking. They display contempt towards those who won't embrace their dogmas, branding them unenlightened, illiberal, deplorable, and worse. But these new dogmas deserve to be greeted with some of that.
This is such fucking cringe anti-SJW shit. Like, oh my god. I forget that people are still listen to this stuff and are like, whoa, oh my god, this dude's challenging feminism. This dude's challenging the left. Oh my gosh, whoa. Like, what the fuck? Oh my god. It's so cringe and boring stuff, but also I'm pretty far left on a lot of social issues, but whatever. I'll just let you guys know that. So I'm not an anti-SJW by any means.
That old Anglo-Scottish skepticism. Enlightenment overconfidence in reason has led us badly astray too many times. I'm Yoram Chazoni, author of The Virtue of Nationalism, for Prager University.
The virtue of oh my god. This dude wants to destroy America. Holy shit. This dude wrote The Virtue of Nationalism. This is the sort of this is where conservatives is going, y'all. This is where conservatives heading. It's heading towards a nationalism and a religiosism that completely rejects reason. This is why conservatism is failing us. And this is generally what has happened throughout history. When reason isn't accepted, when egoism isn't accepted, both sides begin to convert to nationalism and socialism. And you see this with the left. The left is going towards socialism. The right is going towards nationalism. And holy shit, we're fucked. Welcome to Germany, baby.
Thank you for watching this video.
You're
to help
welcome.
keep PragerU videos
Thanks
free,
for this video.
please consider making a
thank you.
tax-deductible donation.
Yo, I'm gonna donate to PragerU now, guys. Hell yeah, bro. These guys are really supporting my idea. These guys are really pro-Western. These guys are really supporting pro-Western ideas of individualism and human reason. Oh my gosh. Thanks, Prager, for saving Western civilization. Oh my god, we're fucked. This is where conservatives going, y'all. This is not a good time right now. Hey, but hopefully objectivism can hijack conservatism. Oh man, we're kind of fucked, but you know what? Don't focus too much on politics if you want to live a happy life. Focus on your individual life. Focus on your individual mind. Focus on using reason in your own life to make your own life better. Don't focus on all this political shit because you're just going to be depressed. I mean, you can advocate for it, you can argue with it, you can point out the blatant lies in these type of videos, but don't get too obsessed. That's my only suggestion for all of you guys. Just focus on living your own lives and stay away from caring too much about politics. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say for today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.